Good morning, good life. You're listening to Detail Therapy episode 147. It feels so good to be back. This episode is all about my 37 rules for life to celebrate my 37th birthday, which is today.
She's an award-winning YouTuber and best-selling author obsessed with helping you go after the life you want.
I like it.
Join her as she seeks out the stories and strategies
Give me every little detail.
of extraordinary people who found success.
I'm going to get emotional. Oh my God.
Welcome to Detail Therapy with Amy Landino.
We are finally kicking off season 9 of Detail Therapy. And when I say finally, let's just address the elephant in the room. What the heck happened at the end of season 8? Let's just unpack that really quickly. Well, what happened was I had a baby. So any moms in the house are going to be like, yep, that's the best excuse in the book. So no need for extra explanation. Honestly, I just want to say thank you so much for everyone that is still listening to this podcast. You've been with us for so long and for being patient with me. We had no intention of ending suddenly season 8. But shout out to Ashley Stahl for holding it down on that amazing takeover episode. I'm such a huge fan of her. You've probably heard her on the podcast in the past if you've been listening for 9 or 8 seasons. And so it really wasn't supposed to end that way. But my firstborn child arrived early and just willing to greet the world. Bianca Rosa Landino is in the house, literally taking a nap right now. I'm watching her on the monitor like, keep those eyes shut, honey. I'm trying to bring back the podcast. So anyway, thank you so much for your patience. I appreciate that. If you are listening to this, it was either my birthday today or recently or whatever. I'm 37 years old. And I thought, how about we bring back Detail Therapy with a kickoff episode to celebrate my birthday. And what do you do on birthdays? You appreciate the fact that you are still here and you reflect on your time and what you're going to take into the next chapter or the next year of your life. And so I thought it'd be fun to do a 37 rules for life. You know, I love a good set of rules, right? And we'll unpack that more. Trust me, you're going to be interested to hear what I have to say on that because I've actually reflected quite a lot in the last couple of years about my obsession with rules. So more on that later. But before we get into all that, hi, my name is Amy Landino and I will be your host. I'm so excited to be back. I'm the founder of GATLU, which stands for Go After the Life You Want. We create resources for ambitious professionals who are ready to unleash their power, get unstuck, and create the life of their dreams. Check out Detail Therapy over at gatlu.com. We've got all kinds of stuff over there. It's GATLUW.com. We have books, videos, blog posts, and of course, the show notes for this show for you to check out over there. And if you didn't know, if you just love a good podcast moment, we have a daily motivational podcast. And that's when you join our premium community, which is called Shine Squad. You can head over to gatlu.com to find out more details about all of those things. And I would love to see you over in Shine Squad if you want a little 5-minute burst of motivation to kick off your day. So here are my 37 rules for life. I sat in my new, you know how you have a baby and you have to buy all the things. I sat in my new glider rocking chair as I was nursing my child. And I was like, I've got a few reflections about this life. And so I want to share them. And that's what I'm going to do. And of course, I wrote them out into 37 beautiful rules. Now, I'm going to jump to number 13, actually, really quickly, because out of the 37, the first 12 are my personal commandments. And if you have been listening to Detail Therapy for a long period of time, you might remember episode 64, which was when I shared for the first time with you my 12 personal commandments. So actually, my 37 rules for life include those 12 commandments and 25 more rules. So there's definitely some that I have been thinking about and pondering and feeling and following for a great majority of my life. And then there's some new ones that are added to this list. So first, let's go through those 12 commandments. But I do recommend you go back to 64. I just actually took a quick listen to it just to make sure I was on the same page as myself at that point in time. Because we were on episode 147. Episode 64 was a while ago. And yeah, I think there's a really, really great explanation over there of each of these commandments. But I do have small updates to a couple of them. So I'm going to mention those here. Commandment number 1, rule number 1, be here now. Be here now. Very simple. Be present. And be with the space around you, with the people around you. Pay attention to the people around you. Rule number 2, commandment number 2, control the controllable. If you're familiar with me, if you've ever seen me post books on my social media, I like to share what I'm reading all the time. Something I've been reading every day for many years is The Daily Stoic. And I have learned a lot from Stoicism about recognizing what is controllable and what is not. And let me tell you, it helps your stress level quite a bit when you recognize what is controllable and what is not. Rule number 3, commandment number 3, take your time. I've always felt a bit rushed in my life, and I never noticed it to be something that added stress, but it definitely was adding stress to my life. So recognizing that I can take my time, and I should take my time, has helped me to embrace more of who I am and to not feel like I have to be doing things for others so much, and of course, keeps that cortisol level lower. Rule number 4 and commandment number 4, it's either a hell yes or it's a no. And I don't curse very often on this show, but there's another curse word that's going to pop up. It's at the very, very, very end. So for those of you who have children listening, I hope you're not mad at me already, and please be prepared for that. But it's got to be an absolute yes or it's a no. We get one life. We only get so much time. So recognizing that those are the two answers and there's not a whole lot of gray area and you need to go with your gut is so, so important. So that's something that I continue to work on and I care a lot about. We're practicing saying no when I really mean it. Commandment number 5, rule number 5, no scorekeeping. Oh my gosh, I love this one. This is where tit for tat comes into play. Scorekeeping is so exhausting. It is like you always have to remember how you were treated before so that you can reflect that onto someone else instead of just always being your best at all times. There's no reason to keep score if you're not playing sports, okay? Unless you can think of some other totally appropriate scorekeeping example, which I welcome, and that's fine. But in your relationships with other people, it's not worth it. In your relationships in business, it's not worth it. Because if you kill with kindness, if you continue to show up to the best of your ability, no matter how you were treated before, you're going to be better off for it. Number 6, but the commandments and the rules. Number 6, response over reaction. Previously, I called this action over reaction. And I still believe that, but I kind of want to change the phraseology here because I do believe in action over reaction, but it comes from a place of being more cognizant of what you're going to do next. And so I like to now think about it as instead of reacting, which is typically very impulsive, I want to come up with my response. And just thinking about the word response, you consider your moves differently. You take more time. You think more thoughtfully. You are more mindful when you're coming up with a response versus a reaction. So that response is still going to be an action of some kind, whether it's inaction, choosing inaction, or taking a specific step. But I'm phrasing it as a response now because I want to think of it more as something that takes a moment for me to collect myself and decide to do. Commandment and rule number 7, Sharpie your calendar. We love a calendar block. We appreciate the time in our day. We're going to use every moment to the best of our ability and we're going to Sharpie it in. Do what you say you're going to do. Show up when you say you're going to show up because it's a heck yes and not a no. But when it's a no, we don't need the Sharpie, do we? Because we're using that Sharpie on other things, okay? Sharpie your calendar. Do what you're saying you're going to do and use the most of your time. Number 8 on the commandment and rules list, stop romanticizing. I love a good story, and I have to remind myself to stop telling myself stories when I don't need the dang story. When we romanticize something, even as simple as, oh, I'm not going to throw this t-shirt away because somebody gave it to me, but I'm never, ever, 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 ever going to wear it. And it's not even being used as a great dusting rag. Like, that's romanticizing, okay? Get rid of the extra crap. Get rid of the things that are not serving you just because they have some great story attached to them. It's just not worth it. Commandment number 9, rule number 9, act the way you want to feel. I love this one. I got this one from Gretchen Rubin. Gretchen Rubin introduced me to the idea of having my own personal commandments, and I believe this is one of hers. Act the way you want to feel. We need this reminder all the time because we might feel down. We might feel sad. We might feel neglected. We might feel just off. But if you want to feel differently, we have to take an action in order to change our state and make that possible. So act the way you want to feel. Commandment and rule number 10, take up space. I previously said this as fill the space. I feel like they're the same, but different. I don't know. I'm just at a moment in my life where I want to say, take up space. I need to take up space. Something I'm pretty bad at is just allowing myself to fill a space, I guess. I don't know. It's like, okay, listen to episode 64 for a better explanation of that. But it's honestly just when you try to shrink yourself down and you don't take up as much space because you feel you need to fit and you need to not get in anyone's way and you want to be courteous and just sort of barely observed. You don't take up a lot of space and you actually gain more confidence and feel more of your fullest version of yourself when you do take up space. So that's something I have to work on all the time, all the time. Commandment and rule number 11, no X's. Not the X's you're thinking of. Excuses, explaining, and expectations are the X's that I am talking about. No excuses, no explaining, no expectations. Expectations of others is what I'm talking about here. When we have expectations of others, we're setting ourselves up for disaster, sadness, disappointment, so many stress, so many things we don't need. You can have high standards, but when you expect somebody to do something, especially if it has not been fully articulated, you're going to be real sad. And the final commandment and rule number 12, yes, and. This is straight out of the book of improv. I didn't mean stand up. Improv comedy. Yes. And when we live in a world of wanting to say no or but all the time before fully embracing an experience or embracing what someone else has to share with us, then we cut ourselves off from learning. We cut ourselves off from the world. I don't mean that you shouldn't say no to things that aren't right for you. I mean immediately assuming whatever somebody's going to say is wrong or not something you're interested in, is not going into a situation open and feeling a yes and mentality. More on that in episode 64, but in improv, yes and is sort of their way of making sure that the show goes really well. Because if you end up doing improv with somebody who's not wanting to continue the storyline that you came up with while you're up there, it's very hard to gel. And I think this is important for the relationships in our lives. It's okay to have a yes and mentality, and at the same time, coexist with a mentality of I'm only going to say yes and no to commitments that are right for me to say yes or no to. Those two things can live together. Still be open and a yes and mentality, and still be able to say no when it's a no. All right, so those were the 12 personal commandments, the first of the 37 rules for life. Again, if you want a deeper dive on any of those, episode 64 of Detail Therapy. It was a while ago, but it's a good one. So check that out. Let's move on to rule number 13. Drink water first. It's real simple. Just drink water first. I'm always ready for my cup of coffee in the morning. I'm always ready for a snack. But if you're feeling like you're not sure of what you should be doing, you have a headache, you don't feel good, you're maybe a little bit hungry, you don't know how your body's feeling, check in with yourself, drink some water first. The first thing I do is chug a bunch of water. I chug a bunch of water. It's certainly very important for me right now because I need to take care of my health so I can take care of my child's health. It means more than ever before, but it is the first thing that I do. I'm chugging some freaking water during the day. And if I feel like I want like a little sugary sweet and I've had too many sugary sweets, I drink some water first because that's just how I regulate what do I really want and how do I actually feel. Just a little tip. That's what I'm doing. That's my rule for life. Number 13. Number 14, never say something negative after beginning a sentence with I am. This is sort of, I know this is going to sound bizarre if you really don't know what I'm talking about, but I believe that when you say the word I, or when you speak of who you are speaking of your highest self. And if we want to remember that and try to stay outside of our ego as much as possible and really think about who we are at the highest self in a spiritual aspect, doesn't matter what your religious beliefs are or what your spiritual beliefs are. Like when you really believe that you emulate love and you have the ability to live as your highest self and think as your highest self, you don't want to say anything negative after you're introducing to the world who you are. Because when you say I am, you are manifesting exactly who you intend to be. And you don't even realize that you're manifesting negativity when you say something like, oh, I'm so stupid, or I'm so late all the time, or I am whatever negative you can think of. It's doing yourself a disservice. It is doing your highest self a disservice. And it's certainly doing the person you hope to be a disservice because you just manifest the opposite. So I try to be very self-aware. If I'm going to use the words I am, that is my moment to connect with the best version of myself, the closest version of myself to God that I am. And I'm very special. I am very special. And so I'm not going to say I am stupid. Okay. I can have a moment where I did something stupid. People do stuff that's stupid all the time. It doesn't mean you are. So notice the difference. When you say I am, make sure you're very careful about what you follow that up with. That's my rule number 14. Number 15, read nonfiction every day. I wanted to people please and put read a book every day, or read a page of a book, or read a line of a book, or just read some kind of a book every day. But I'm sorry, these are my rules for life, and I can't pick up a fiction book and learn from it in terms of life lessons. And I want a life lesson. I want to continue to get wiser. I want to continue to make important decisions in my life. And so if I have to pick a book to read every day, it's going to be nonfiction. It's going to be either a memoir or a self-development piece or anything that tells me in the real world what I can do to elevate myself. I don't not believe in fiction books. I think they make great vacation reads, something nice for the weekend when you're trying to chill. But if I'm thinking about doing something every day, it's a nonfiction book read every day. Rule number 16, keep a win list and get it done. Something that I do is I keep a win list every day. And a win list is just 5 things that are going to move the needle for me. And it could be really simple. It could be taking a walk. It could be finishing the laundry. But often on that list is also something that is related to my business or my professional life, or if I want to do something for my family or my relationships, something that's going to move the needle and make life better for me. I have a win list every day. Do I get everything done every day? No, absolutely not. This is why to-do lists are just to-do lists. They are not how you actually spend your time. But if I wake up in the morning and I'm going to plan my day, or if I do this the night before, I create a win list. How do I win the day tomorrow? What are 5 things that would help me win tomorrow? And they do not have to be these grand steps. They just have to be that baby step that moves the needle. And so that's my rule number 16. Keep a short win list and then get it done. Number 17, stay fresh with skincare and sunscreen. Skincare every day, twice a day, even when my baby is literally my entire morning routine right now. Like, we can get into that. We can talk about what does Amy's morning routine look like now that she has a baby. I'm sure that's top of mind for everyone that's like, morning routine queen, how's it going now? I know what you're thinking. But I still make sure to do what I have to do to present my best self every day. And one of those things is washing my face and moisturizing and putting sunscreen on. Another one of those things is brushing my teeth. We can get into that further another time. But stay fresh with skincare and sunscreen. Sunscreen every day. I don't care where you live. The sun comes out, you need some sunscreen. Okay. I don't even leave the house and I'm still wearing sunscreen. Rule number 18, don't be late. But if you're going to be late, remove the pressure and arrive safely. I don't like to be late, but what I hate more than being late is when I feel stressed and frazzled and sweaty because I am late. And I cannot change that anymore. Even if it's like, no, if I just keep rushing, I might be on time. Okay, but then I'm going to rush, be on time, and be a lesser version of myself. And I think that that's shaving years off my life. So my plan is not to be late, and I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that that's possible. But if I am late, I'm going to take the pressure off because I am not going to take away from my state of mind just because there's an arbitrary time that I need to follow. And I totally understand that there's like this line in the sand of people who hate people who are late and people who hate people who hold them accountable for being late. And here's the thing, let's all just arrive safely, okay? And let's appreciate each other as much as we can. And let's just respect everybody who for who they are. And no one needs to be losing their freaking mind because they're late. You can absolutely apologize when you put somebody out and you waste their time and you can learn from it. But we don't need to, we don't need to be frazzled more often than we already are. Rule number 19, sorry is not a helpful filler word. You have heard me talk about the word sorry so much, ad nauseum, never ending. But it's not a helpful filler word. If you feel like you're going to say sorry just to kind of continue a conversation, also great one to put after the being late conversation, because you rush in somewhere and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry I'm late. And you've already said I twice and you're making it about you rather than making it about the person that you're putting out. Forgive me. You do not deserve for me to waste your time. I really appreciate you and acknowledge you for being patient with me. Make it about someone else. The word sorry is not making it better, because especially if you're somebody who's late all the time, just be honest with yourself. You're late all the time and you say sorry all the time. You don't mean it. And I think the biggest issue with sorry being this filler word for people, not even in that's actually a point where you may actually need to apologize. We say sorry all the time and we don't even need to apologize. It is the worst filler word because we are just taking away from its meaning every time we use it unnecessarily. Like, I could say, oh my God, I'm so sorry that we didn't end the podcast the way that we should have last season. But instead I said, or I hope I said, if I said sorry, this is going to sound awful. But instead I said, that was not our intention whatsoever. Things happened. I had a baby. And there's not a thing I would change about that. That happened. That was my life. That's how it all played out. And I'm back. And I acknowledge you for still being here. That's what it's about. So using sorry as a filler word to think it's going to make somebody else feel better when it's not your deepest intention, it's just not necessary. Rule number 20, genuine apologies don't come with a but or an if. So to play off of this further, if you are apologizing for the right reasons, you're not going to qualify it with a but or an if. I'm sorry if that offended you. I'm sorry, but you were mean to be first. Okay. This is just rude. This is rude. It's just rude. And we all watch reality TV and we see people do it and we're like, that's so rude. And then we still do it. If it's a genuine apology, it does not come with a but or an if. Rule number 21, be a good listener without relying on your words. Something that especially, I don't want to just classify women. I think just nervous introverts maybe. Something that we do a terrible job of is showing we're a good listener with our ears and that being enough. It's really easy to show someone you're listening by saying a bunch of stuff back to them. And what we tend to do is share our own experience so that they know we just heard what they said and we can sympathize with them and that we've felt something similar before. And we think we're doing a good job by proving that with our story. But what's actually happening is that person's not feeling heard and you're articulating the opposite. You're not a good listener. You're not a good listener because you think you're listening right now. You are talking. You're literally talking. You are not listening. So do not rely on your words to prove you are a good listener. Is it great practice for you to listen and wait and repeat back what you heard to let someone know you fully absorbed it and that you have thoughts on it, especially if they're inviting you to share those thoughts? Absolutely. There's great practices for articulating how well you listen, but wait for those moments. And you don't need to rely on that to prove you're a good listener. You just don't. Rule number 22, pay your taxes happily. Who does that, right? Here's the thing. You got to pay your taxes. This is a thing. Everyone needs to do it. We all come to terms with it. And when we do, we need to get energetically on board with it. Because anytime we are separating ourselves from money and being upset about it or being sad about it, we're developing a bad relationship with money. So one way that can instantly elevate how you feel about money and money not being the root of all evil is for you to even be happy paying your taxes. In addition to being happy to Uber Eats or being happy to buy a handbag, you are happy to pay those taxes because guess what it means? It means you made some money and so you have a duty to where you live. You're going to pay those taxes. And we're all going to take advantage of the tax breaks that we get. And I'm not saying not to do that, but when we do write that check, we're going to be happy to do it because that means good things are happening if we're doing that. And that develops a very good relationship with money for you and your mindset. Rule number 23, compare yourself only to who you were yesterday and no one else. There is literally no one else on planet Earth you can compare yourself to because we've all had separate journeys. The only person that has the exact same journey as you is the person you were yesterday. You cannot compare yourself to anyone else. You can see other things. You can be happy for other people and go, I want that for me. Cool. No need to compare yourself to them. Work toward it. You can compare yourself to who you were yesterday. If you're unhappy with the results of your life, then look at what you did yesterday. What happened? Why did it not go to plan? What can we learn from that? Why are we not doing something different to learn from that? That is a very, very, very important rule for life, especially in this day and age where keeping up with the Joneses is on steroids because of social media and how quickly we're scrolling it. Rule number 24, there is no need to be brutal, but be honest. Honesty is so important, but people forget that we can also be kind and honest. And you also don't have to hide things if you feel that you are lying by withholding information. You can be honest and still not be painfully honest. You don't have to be brutally honest. You can be unapologetically yourself, but that doesn't mean you have to be brutally honest. Why does anyone want to be brutal? Let's just be honest so that we can earn the respect of being who we are and gaining that confidence for being who we are. But you don't have to be mean. There's just no point. No point. That's only a reflection of you. That is not you enlightening someone else about what they need to know. Number 25, move your body. Rule number 25, so important. Move your body. If you move your body, you move your mind. You know what? If you can't move your body, do whatever you can to give yourself that state of mind that you need to feel moved. It doesn't matter what your abilities are. I'm not asking you to go run a marathon. I'm not even asking you to take a walk if you can't. Move your body the way that it makes a difference for you to move your mind because it will make all the difference. Rule number 26, do not parent someone that you are not a parent of. This has been hard for me because I've always been sort of like when my friends would want to go out and drink and go to the bars and whatever in our 20s, I was always called like the mom of the group because I was always just like taking care of everyone and trying to make sure everyone was fine. And I never had as much as everyone else did to drink. And they always called me the mom, which is really ironic considering I just had my firstborn at age 36. But it's not my responsibility to parent other people. And so if you see someone doing something or saying something inappropriate, you can enlighten them. You can be honest with them. You don't have to be brutal, but don't tell them what to do. It's not your job to parent them if you are not their parent. And they don't have to listen to you, and they are not your parent, ideally. So we wouldn't want them telling you what to do either, right? That's how I feel about it. If I think it's crazy for someone to tell me what to do, then I need to not be a hypocrite and tell them what to do. But I have a kid now, so that's the one human I might be able to do that with. Rule number 27, take pleasure without the guilt. One of my biggest pet peeves is the phrase guilty pleasure. How many times do you hear that phrase and it just like, oh yeah, I have a guilty pleasure. And you're excited to say what your guilty pleasure is because you're admitting that there's guilt. That's annoying. Why do I have to feel guilty about watching The Real Housewives? I don't have to feel guilty about that. I thoroughly enjoy it. And as much as I love these rules for life and I could teach these rules for life to many of those housewives, it wouldn't make for very good TV, would it? No. I'm sorry. Them acting a fool is hilarious. And so I respect that. It's entertainment and I like to watch it and I don't have to feel guilty about that. When we actually find pleasure in our life, we should be happy to brag about that. We should be happy to fully immerse ourselves in that. We should be happy to get to do it when we get to do it because we're still here living this life and that's a freaking blessing. So take pleasure without the guilt. Rule number 28, love unconditionally if you want to receive love unconditionally. And this is hard, I think, for a lot of people because many of the rules that we follow in our lives, many of the thoughts that we have, many of the imposter syndromes, and many of the scarcity mindsets that we have, they all come from not being unconditionally loved at one point. And so it's very hard to give that love when you feel so many ways that you've not received it. But regardless of if you receive it, just decide you're going to love unconditionally. And I think this helps to drop a lot of those expectations off of people and just say, you know what? I love you for who you are. You may not do something the way somebody would do. You may not want to be like somebody, but you can love them for who they are, especially if they're in your life. And when you do that, you do a much better job of loving yourself unconditionally. And that's the real unconditional love we need to receive here. Because we can't expect it from everyone else again, because that's an expectation. But if we want to feel unconditionally loved, we can show it to other people and also show it to ourselves and therefore receive it. So even if it feels like a pipe dream, give it a try. Love unconditionally. Don't parent anyone. Don't have these high expectations of them. And you might find you're a lot less stressed and enjoying the people in your life, or especially the most important person in your life, and that's you. Rule number 29, practice, practice, practice. If you want something, if you want to be something, if you're trying to get somewhere, you got to practice. You're not going to be good at it right away, Amy, you know. The number of times my mom had to say this to me, you're not going to be good at everything right away, Amy. And I never wanted to hear that ever, ever, ever. That made me more mad than not being good at it in the first place. Practice, 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 practice. If you want something, you need to practice. You can't be surprised when you fail because the entire reason why you're failing is because you put in a round of practice. That's it. That's all a failure is telling you, is that you practiced. So keep practicing what you want to see for yourself. It's not just going to get dropped in your lap. Rule number 30, focus on the one thing that makes you extraordinary and let the rest go. If you focus on that one thing that's special to you or that one thing you want to be special to you and you practice, 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 life gets a lot more simple. You don't do too much. You don't have too many ideas. I was just watching a tennis match earlier and the competitor was getting this trophy for the 22nd time. He's older, much older than his competitor. And the announcer said, in theory, he's older and less hungry than the young competitor who made it to the finals with him. And the guy still won. Why? Because he practiced. He focused. He's good at this one thing. He focuses on this one thing and he just competes and he wants to win. And that's all he wants. So he practices. That's it. How do you want to win? Where do you want to win? What do you want to win? And are you actually practicing that in your day to day? Focus on that one thing that you want to point out to you how you're extraordinary, and then let the rest go. You can't be extraordinary at everything. It takes too much work to be extraordinary at one thing. Rule number 31, have the glass of wine. It's very simple. Have the glass of wine. Maybe you don't have more than like 2, but I just tried this like canned wine the other day that definitely felt like 2. And I was like, wow, next time we're only going to have half of this. My tolerance is very, very low right now. Obviously, I've been pregnant for too long. Every pregnant woman feels that way, by the way. So have the glass of wine. Just have it. Just enjoy it. Just enjoy life. Taste it. What does it taste like? Do the sommelier research if you want. Whatever your version of the glass of wine is, have it. Enjoy it. It is not a guilty pleasure. It's a pleasure. We don't have to abuse it. We can have the pleasure. We can enjoy it. We don't have to overthink it. Have the glass of wine. Rule number 32, build the biggest building without needing to tear others down. This is inspired by an interview that actually my husband did with Gary Vaynerchuk. Vincenzo interviewed Gary Vaynerchuk long time ago. And it's a great video, actually. It's online. And he said, what do you do when you see everyone around you so successful? And you're successful too, but maybe they're just a little bit further than you. They're they're just like doing a little bit more. And he looked at him and he said, genuinely, I want to build the biggest building in town, but I don't need to tear down other buildings to achieve that. And I thought that was such an amazing thought process. And that is something that I continue to think of. And I like it as a rule for life. Build the biggest building in town. You don't have to tear down others to do that. Focus on you, practice, observe what's happening around you, but you don't have to be mad at someone or feel like it's taken away from you because somebody else got it. Like, that's just not how life works. Build the biggest building. Keep on building. Rule number 33, go to the dentist. Okay? Just go. It's so important to take care of your oral health. I fully believe this. I've never been somebody who's nervous about the dentist. I mean, it's not enjoyable. At least they kind of came up with some like better flavors for, cleaning your teeth. But it's just simple. Go. Take care of yourself. That is the last thing you want to happen, is just like your ability to communicate to be challenged by, a nasty situation in there. So go to the dentist. And I'm saying that also to myself right now because I have to find a new dentist in Florida. I have yet to do that. But don't worry, I saw the dentist right at the beginning of my pregnancy, and so we're good. We're square. I really got to go back now because it's been too long. Rule number 34, if you want to do what everyone else is doing, have a very good reason why. If you are literally saying to yourself, I want to do that because it's what everyone else is doing, have a very good reason why. Now, if the thing everyone else is doing is having a cookout on a Sunday and you're like, I want to do what everyone else is doing, I actually think you could very easily come up with a great reason why. I want to spend time with these amazing people in the sunshine and have a delicious hot dog. Yes, I like hot dogs. Okay, people can judge me for that. That's fine. But that's fine. You've got the reason. But if you want to do what everyone else is doing and it's, I want to become an influencer on Instagram. Somebody said to me, somebody in Italy said this. And so they actually said it. Did they say it in English? I think they said it in Italian to someone, and someone interpreted it for me. They said, oh my gosh, I love what you do. I want to be an influencer. I want to get paid to do nothing. Oh boy, I was laughing at that one. There's some people that actually think that's true. And you know what? You might be one of them, and I ain't even mad at you, because if you don't know, you don't know. That's fine. If you think influencers do nothing and get paid for it, then that's fine. Give it a go. That's not the point. The point is, if you want to be an influencer because it seems like everybody's getting paid to do nothing and you want to do what everybody else is doing, come up with a better reason why. Because first of all, you're not going to be very motivated to keep up with it because you're going to find out it's a lot more work than you think, and that you are undervalued in this industry more than you would think that they are. It seems like everyone's high rolling. Trust me. Not everyone. Not everyone. It takes a very special situation with the right brands and the right niche, and you've got to be doing it for a very specific, great why. And that why cannot be because it's the cool thing and everyone's doing it. That's actually a reason not to do it. Because if everyone is doing it, something's going to happen to that industry and it's going to start crumbling, and it already is. It's starting to crumble because I could go on about this on some other episode, but it's starting to crumble because everyone's doing it and they're doing it at a mediocre pace and nobody's doing their best work. And so it's going to be continued to be undervalued. And so if you're doing it because you think there's all kinds of money in the game, you're going to be really disappointed. So what is it that you want to do because everyone else is doing it, but you don't have a very good reason why? Rectify that quickly. Rule number 35, don't fall into the trap of always doing what everyone else is doing. Let's be honest. Are you a follower? Are you doing anything in your life that you genuinely decided to do on your own and not because you were influenced to do it? Well, I mean, you could be influenced, but for the right reasons. Refer back to number 34. What's your reason why? If you are constantly doing what everyone else is doing, then you don't have your own identity. So you don't want to fall into that trap. There are many things you're going to do because other people are doing them and you're going to enjoy the crap out of it. But if it's your purpose in life, make sure you chose it for yourself. Rule number 36, emulate who you want to be. And this one may eventually get promoted to a commandment because it's so important. We think about what we want with ourselves and our lives, and we think about all the things we don't have. But in reality, we should be thinking about the person we want to be. And what would that person look like? And what would that person act like? And what would that person talk like? And what would that person do when they woke up every day? And what would their routine be like? And what would their work life be like? What would it be like to be that person? Wake up and emulate that person. Do the work. That person. And now I'm going to give you a warning for rule number 37 because I'm going to say a dirty word. And it's a dirty word that I don't think I've ever said. I've really done a great job of not saying this word in content for my entire career. But I'm going to say it now because I am now 37 years old. I'm a big girl. And there's just no better word than this word in this situation. And I fully believe that. And I've actually given this a lot of thought because I keep hearing myself think that word in this phrase. It's a lot of buildup. And I think to myself, like, do I need that word? Do I really need that word? And I do, because it just adds the punch you need to really get it. Rule number 37 is that there are no rules. Grow the fuck up. I want you to think on that. I want you to really think on that. And I want you to picture me sitting in a session with a life coach and her telling me, Amy, it sounds like you need to grow the fuck up. Because that happened. And what I realized, and this is what I was referring to at the top of the episode, is that something I have been obsessed with for all my life is being the good little girl and being that the person that I'm supposed to be and following the rules. And I've realized over many years, about 37, that there actually are no rules. There are laws. Follow the law. Don't break the law. Pay your taxes. Push the button before you cross the street. Don't run any red lights. Stuff like that. Follow the law. But when it comes to life, there are actually no rules. And every single rule here, every single rule I listed also with the mindset of number 37, that there are no rules. And if I'm constantly looking for the bumpers in this game of bowling, then I'm never really going to live this life on my terms. If you're always looking for the rules, if you're always looking for permission, if you're always looking for somebody to tell you the right thing to do, you're acting like a kid. And I don't know about you, but I'm 37 years old. So I'm not trying to be a kid anymore. I'm trying to be a grown lady. And so this grown lady needs to grow the fuck up. And I hope that whatever version of that phrase works for you, if it works for you and you want to observe it in your own life, that you do and you really think about it. Because we love lists like this. Oh, 37 rules for life and rules and commandments and habits and everything. We just love these lists because we just want to be told what to do. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm telling myself what I'd like to see from myself. But guess what? I'm going to be frazzled when I'm late sometimes. I'm going to give a crappy apology that has the word but or if in it. I am going to give myself crap about having a glass of wine. I forgot to go to the dentist for the last year because I have been pregnant or nursing a child. I have not kept up my win list. I have not read pages of a fiction book. I have had the cup of coffee before I had a glass of water. I have shrunk myself instead of taking up space. I have romanticized stories like crazy that have prevented me from doing the things I want to do with myself. I have not loved myself unconditionally. I have not loved others unconditionally. I have broken all of these rules and I will continue to break these rules because that is life. So, these lovely rules make me feel like I have learned something and I'm reflecting on this life, but they're not the whole story. I'm always doing the best I can with the information that I have. And it's time to grow the fuck up. So, those are my 37 rules for life. I hope you've enjoyed them. I have to say how absolutely tickled I am to be back on this podcast microphone with you in season nine of Detailed Therapy. So crazy. I'm just thrilled. I have so many ideas, so many people I want to talk to bring on this show and share with you. Because I really feel like, and I've always said this, I really feel like it's a different type of connection here on Detailed Therapy than anywhere else that I share my ideas, like YouTube or the various places. Like it just feels different. It feels like we hang out on a different level. So I want to acknowledge you for being here, especially this late in the show. Thank you so much for still listening. Thank you so much for showing up. Thank you so much for caring about my rules for life, taking them with a grain of salt, coming up with your own, and also completely throwing them away and saying, I am a grown person and I'm going to do the best that I can. And that is okay. That is enough. You are enough. Just like that. I want to acknowledge you for that. Thank you. It just means a lot that I get to be a part of this journey with you. So, welcome back to the show. Happy summertime. Let's do it up. And yeah, that's it. I'm just so glad to be back. This is the best way to spend a birthday is with you like this. It's awesome. Hey, I would love to hear from you. Do something for me, especially if you're listening to this on a mobile device. Take a screenshot of the podcast right now and either share it to your social media and tag me or just send me a DM. Send me the screenshot in a DM so that I see it really quickly and answer me this. Which rule or guideline or anything I said, which one resonated with you the most? I would love, love, love to see that. You can tag me either my personal account, Schmatastic, Details Podcast is over there. You can tag whichever one you want. I will see it and I would just love to hear from you. I would love to know if anything here that I reflected on resonated with you. Share that with me over on your social media platforms. That's all for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it as always. Remember, subscribe for good vibes, kiss the ones you love, and go after the life you want. Back here on the next one. Cheers.